I actually don't understand why the wolf was necessary at all for Mephisto.
It's because they wanted the reveal. Like, they wanted to
yeah.
set up these mysteries in Act 1, and then they, like, go to pay them off, and it's just, they pay them off in such shit, dumb way. Like, the Mephisto payoff, I think, almost works, but then they don't follow through on it, because they just, I don't know, dude.
Because they don't give the player any actual choice over, or feel like they have any choice.
But also, they don't, like, flesh out a lot of the characters. Like, we needed to have time when the Helm Lady, the Rat Helm Lady, Andariel.
Yeah.
We needed to, like, have her get summoned and have that be, like, an entire act of, like, dealing with that or something. We needed an entire act of fleshing out Inarius and Lilith.
I think they thought that they did that in Act 1. But they didn't. I don't know. The more you look back, I was talking about it last night, the more you look back at the story, the more it crumbles.
It's specifically just the, like, when they're going about setting up things, it's not terrible. But when they come to try and pay off things, it's just like they try and pay off way too much, way too quickly. And so it just feels super rushed. And like, why do we go through all the effort of setting this stuff up?
I mean, we also literally didn't need to do anything. Like they could have just not had us participate in Skosglen and Dry Stepp's story. Like, they were just filler arcs. Like, actually. The only time we start to do something is when we get to Kyrgyzstan and Hawazar. I think they really wanted the game to not be 4 acts or 5 acts. They really could have just made it like 4.
What is even the inciting incident? So, like, we start the game. We're off in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason.
We're a wanderer. That's all they tell us.
Sure. We're wandering. And we nearly die because we're such a great wanderer that we get lost in the snow and nearly die.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, our good friend Mr. Woof saves us.
Shows us to a cave.
At this point, we don't know where who Mr. Woof is. Just that he's a kind puppo. And that's nice. It's good to have kind puppos. From there, we wander into a village. And the village is like, oh, there's a bad guy nearby. Could you go handle him for us, Mr. Wanderer? And we're like, sure thing, buddy. That's the kind of thing I do as Mr. Wanderer. And then we go off and we kill the first dungeon.
Well, they say some shit about us being able to tell that we're powerful or something. Which actually doesn't make any sense. How it seems.
Well, it turns out that was bait, right? They intended us to go and get sacrificed.
Yeah, but it also
so far, like, everything works up until that. I mean, other than the fact that we were off and.
But like then later on in the story, random people we meet just tell us that we're powerful.
True.
Like, how do you know?
Well, we do wipe out a continent level threat in like 2 minutes, so
without any indication that we have continent level threat powers, and I don't feel like I'm a continental level threat with this character. So well, I feel like I might be a threat to a continental breakfast, but like other than that, like what the fuck?
I don't know if you can see my druid, dude. I can pack down multiple continental threats.
Yeah. What the fuck? Okay, continue.
Okay, so yeah, so we don't fall for the trap, or
we end up winning.
We actually are powerful.
Somewhat. We're literally better than a fucking pile of rocks.
The villagers are like, oh, that didn't work out. And then they bonk us over the back of the head.
Because we're so powerful.
So powerful that we get knocked out. Then, on our way to get sacrificed, luckily for us, there's Ozlef. Isn't that the dude's name or something?
Yeah.
And he like decides to turn on the rest of the village because we're so powerful that he senses this is his chance to break free of the crazy cultists.
Which is, I mean, I guess in a
which
cult,
works out for him.
Which in a cult mentality is probably reasonable. There's probably one dude in there who's probably like, I want out of this fucking crazy hellhole.
Sure, that's fine. And he's like, you gotta go find Lorath. He's a cool dude.
And he calls him the Hermit. He calls him the Hermit on the mountain. Nobody knows his name.
Okay, sure. It turns out to be Lorath. You gotta go find the Hermit.
Yeah.
He's a powerful dude. And so we go find the Hermit. He turns out to be a Haradrim, but we won't find that out for a long time unless you know what the Haradrim symbol is. Then you find it out when we get to Kyovashad, which is what happens next. Is that we find Lorath, and it turns out to be Lorath. He says, okay, I guess we gotta do something. Because the other thing was that back in town, we get marked by Lilith before leaving to go find the Hermit. And so we go find the Hermit, and we're like, hey, Lilith is back. And he's like, okay, well, I guess I gotta do something then. And so he comes with us to Kyovashad. And in Kyovashad, we get Lorath his weapon back, which is very expensive. It's a very high quality weapon. And then we send him off to Dry Steppes. And he's like, I'm going ahead to Dry Steppes, figure out what's happening here, and I think is he the one that charges us with finding Narelle's mom? I don't remember her name.
Something like that, yeah.
Or so I know he tells us that eventually we need to talk to Donan, because that's the instigation for Act 2, and we get that from Lorath. Mm-hmm. And I know he tells us he's going to Dry Steppes, which is the instigation for Act 3. In Act 1, I think he also tells us to talk to the clergy lady. And I think it's Prava that actually tells us to, or that sets us off on the Narelle quest. Because in Act 1, we try to talk to, I don't remember if we get sent after Narelle's mom or Narelle directly.
It's her mom.
Okay.
They're chasing us to the tomb.
She's the one that actually has like knowledge of the Haradrim and stuff. Yeah. She's like a Haradrim scholar.
Yeah.
So we meet with Guardman, Warhammer 40k Guardman, and Narelle. And Guardman doesn't want to go after Narelle's mom. Narelle really wants to go after Narelle's mom. Surprise, surprise. And we're like, we're strong. And
we're like, yeah, we're real strong.
Yeah, we've been told. My mom says I'm real powerful. And so we end up finding Narelle's mom. Turns out she writes stuff in blood. That doesn't bode well for us.
Well, no. She was normal. And then Lilith talked to her once, and she's like, and now I am all the bad. You are all going to die.
This will become a theme.
Yeah.
Turns out, that you're right.
Turns out when you see
Lilith got to this act before us. She pre-ordered before the pre-order, and so she was able to complete Act 1 before us.
Yeah.
And
she has
Lilith
shown everybody her toes.
Showed feet pics to Narelle's mom, who was a closet foot fetishist who couldn't open up to her husband. This is why it's important to have good dialogue with your spouse. So
also nobody in this whole story seems to have two parents other than Rathma.
Yeah.
And he gets killed by one. I'm jumping ahead in the story.
Then we go to shit, I'm under attack. Hold on, I gotta move to a safer spot while I look at the map, figuring out where we went next. At that point, we find Norel's mom. She's fucked up. I forget the sequence of events. Do we go to Inarius first, or do we go... I think we go to Inarius first, right?
Yeah.
Or no, we go to the cathedral area, and they're like, oh, you don't want a blessing from us. You want a blessing from the big man. And then they send us to Inarius, kind of expecting Inarius to kill us. And Inarius instead says, fuck you. But he doesn't kill us, and that essentially means we have his blessing. Which is further reason to why I don't think that Inarius gave him his blessing later, but, you know, we'll get there when we get there. So then we go with Norel into some place to try and revive the mom. Is that correct? And that doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But we do get something that allows us to go back to Warhammer 40k Guardman, who then sends us to Warhammer 40k Guardman sends us to a just random ass thing.
Mm-hmm.
In order to fight a guy. I think that's accurate. First, we have to collect all the Sin Stones for Warhammer 40k Guardman.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go and fight Act 1 boss guy. Right?
I mean, at some point during there, they kill Rathma.
Oh yeah. No, that happens after we kill the guy.
Yeah, when we're chasing him down the hall. Yeah, we're chasing him down the temple hall. After we go to the Herodrum place and have Norelli learn how to do necromancy or something.
Which you can have 4 necromancers as a party. Just so you're aware.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that. We had one in our party, in fact. But Warhammer 40k Guardman earns his title as Warhammer 40k and dies. And then we find out that Rathma died off screen. But I don't think it actually tells us exactly who killed him.
It's Inarius.
Well, we know that later, but we don't know that.
Well, we do.
Time.
We do because we saw him with his weapon.
Right, but it's also, they have implication that Lilith is the one that killed him as well. Like, they tried to paint it as a mystery.
They show her pulling the spear from him. But, like, his dead corpse that had been dead for a long time. Meaning that Inarius did that a while back.
True.
Like, they don't ever actually tell you how long ago Inarius just killed his son for some reason. Right, also, it's implied that Lilith wasn't there just recently either. We're following a flashback. Like, it's implied that Lilith, like, I don't know. The timing for...
The Rathma dying, I think it's the catalyst of the entire thing. Like, is the catalyst of Lilith going on this quest.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Is the timeline skewed until you get to that point, and you get there? We're actually, like, I think really far behind Lilith's plan. Like, she's been doing things for a while, and then we discover that she knows that Rathma's dead.
But the things that she's been doing for a while has amounted to
just corrupting
mom
and corrupting,
making the soul stone for Cerberus Surfer Man.
Yeah, and like corrupting and like seeding her corruption all over villages and stuff.
I guess she corrupted the village.
Yeah,
that's fair.
And she's corrupted plenty of other villagers and the Druid and the Druid
lady.
Like, while this has been going on, like it's weird. The time they don't elaborate that enough, but it's pretty obvious. I guess if you look at it a couple times, you're like, oh, this is like the time period that we're following her footsteps, quote unquote, through is like way earlier than is like we're really slow. Our character is really slow to the pickup.
But we're powerful. My mom told me so. So, okay, so the actual inciting incident is Rathma dying. And that's what made Lilith start to corrupt people. Because she's mad? That doesn't really get explained.
I think that's really the only reason why it starts to make sense, yeah. So I think that's what they're using. As that whatever incident you're calling it.
Inciting incident.
Yeah.
What makes the story why
that's
now,
the only
why
that's the
earlier,
old that was my understanding of when we got to the end of Act 1. That was like, oh, that's why she started to do stuff. At least to me, that's how that clicks. Maybe it's not how it's supposed to work. Maybe it's bad writing, but that's how it clicked to me. To kind of be able to get a grasp of what the fuck is happening in Act 1. Or in the game.
Right. Then we arrive in Act 2. And in Act 2, we're immediately introduced to Donan and the name of the son, who I have not remembered the name of because, spoiler alert, he's already dead. Introduced and dead within the same act. And we spend a lot of time with the guy whose name I can't remember. Pretty much the entire act is trying to build up him as a character so that when Yorin gets a soul stone shoved in his head, we feel something. But it was not enough development. But they did do good work.
I don't think anybody felt anything other than confused when they shoved a soul stone in his head. He might have felt dead, but...
That's fair. I think Donan ended up being an okay character. And, like, the characterization he got from this act was okay. But
really? I thought they painted him as a little baby.
Yeah, but that's fine. You want your characters to have flaws. That way they do stuff to overcome them. Like, you don't... Like, a good character isn't someone who's, like, Giga Chad all the time and has no flaws. I think Donan starts out as a good character, or a good base for a character, and I think they do stuff with his character. I think Donan is okay.
Yeah, he's fine.
But in this act, he's like the overly protective father who turned out in the past didn't quite do what he said he did, which he said that he killed the demon guy, Astaroth, Cerberus Surfer Man. When it turns out he just imprisoned in a soul stone. And once again, I ask the question, why do we keep using these soul stone things? They literally never work out. It seems like a soul stone is just instant, you're setting yourself up for doom. But you know what? Doom did occur. So we're holding steady on our streak.
At least we know what was going through his mind when he died. You're true. Yeah. The stone.
So nothing really of consequence other than we get introduced to so in Act 1 we get introduced to Narelle. In Act 2 we get introduced to Donan. These are characters that are going to be pulled forward. In Act 3 we meet back up with Lorath, and Lorath is a guy who's had too much shit and would like to have less shit, but turns out there's a lot of shit to be had. And so in the dry steps, I don't remember a single thing.
We follow him around and learn about his Elias. It starts to set up Elias. But we actually don't get anything accomplished. Like, all we do is learn that Elias is some sort of, like, person who followed Lilith because question mark. And Lorath just kind of states over and over again that he knew he was evil from the, like, I don't know. It's...
Yeah, and we do get to deal with a couple people who saw Lilith's toes once, and even though they were supposed to be paragons of virtue meant to uphold all that is good and righteous, Lilith's toes a single time corrupted them. enough to.
Also,
burn
you skipped the part in Act 2 where
turn
we
on
literally
their
meet the
plan.
druids, and for some reason they've all already been corrupted by Lilith, and then they all like die.
True. There is a part in Act 2 where it turns out Astaroth already wiped out all the druids. I don't exactly know how.
But for some reason the druids also want him back.
Yeah.
Because Lilith showed them their toes.
I mean, it's a powerful force. All right. So, yeah, not much happens in Act 3 other than we get to know Lorath more.
Literally, the only thing we take away from Act 3 is that Lorath has a complicated past with the Haradrim and Elias.
Yeah, and we get to free Oyun, and she goes off with the person whose name I can't remember because she literally talks once, has no other impact in the story other than to say, please free Oyun. We go free Oyun, and then they ride off into the sunset together. Mm-hmm. That's couple goals right there.
Yeah. We also free Teresa in Act 3. The chick from the...
True. That does happen as well. Yeah.
We get Andariel. We get Andariel's vessel. Yeah.
Alright, the next act is pretty much just the act where we fight Elias, right? Because the next act is Kyrgyzstan, and it's the first time we fight Elias.
Yeah, we also fight what's her face? Andariel.
At the end.
Yeah.
But like pretty much the entirety of Act 4 is finding Elias's location.
Them actually telling us why the fuck Elias is doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And explaining...
And infiltrating Elias's compound extremely easily by just walking in the front door. Which I guess if you're immortal, you don't need to spend that much on security.
Also, like, the front door was supposed to be... Also, the front door was to a hidden place, so I guess it's like... They basically think that if you find that place, you're a cult member, is what they say. So they don't really question it.
Fair enough. Although, the guy that led us there dies off screen while we're fighting Elias.
Well, it's because they realize he's not a cult member and they stab him.
Okay, but like...
Yeah, he just gets killed off screen for...
off screen for no reason.
So they don't have to write his character anymore.
Yep.
Even though he was like one of the funniest characters we met along the way.
Yeah, because he kept calling Lorath Deckard. That was a good bit.
Yeah.
So they killed Deckard Cain again.
Yeah.
Tragic. Now we need to figure out how we can beat Elias. And so we go into Act 5. Mm-hmm. Act 5 is just, we gotta get the Horcrux. We gotta get the band back together. Accrue all of our forces.
Donan's gotta learn how to not be scared.
Yeah,
you get to
learn that it's not his fault that his son died, even though it's exactly his fault that his son died. And then Lorath has to learn to care for another person, even though it means that other person loses their arm. And through great sacrifice of one appendage, we are able to defeat the Horcrux. And then...
By the way, we invade the Sunken Temple, like, we invade Rathma's temple, and, like, we don't mention, like, there's no mention of, like, wow, how great this temple is. Like, that's a sacred, like, that temple is as old as the Nephilim, like, as old as Sanctuary.
I think... So there is a phrase.
They underplay how, like, important these pieces were. Like,
yeah.
Because, like, if that had been...
called jumping the shark. And it's when something ridiculous happens. It's taken from a show called Happy Days, which Eggman does not know.
I know the term jumping the shark,
I'm also not that old.
I know the term
I'm not old enough to have watched Happy Days, just to clarify. I'm not actually from the 70s. So, jumping the shark is when a character in the show jumped a shark, literally, and then it was seen as the show got a lot worse or declined in quality from then on. And I feel like the moment we fight Andariel is the point where we jump the shark in D4. up until then, like, we've been breezing through these acts in this summary here, but like, there's nothing egregious. They're setting up some mysteries. We're getting some character
a lot
work.
of the things that actually happen, like a lot of the actions we actually take are stupid, but I guess the story is okay.
Yeah, but like, the character work is okay, and like, if they wanted to kill off Yorin immediately to like beef up Doran's character or Donan's character, that's like okay, I guess. It's not like what I would have preferred, but it's fine. And then if they want to
Are you still playing Dungeons, by the way?
No. If they wanted to kill off Norel's mom to give us Norel's character motivation, that's pretty typical for stories to kill off parents in order to give motivation. And then like Lorath, I guess we should just know, like, we spend a lot of time with him, even though I feel like we don't get that much knowledge about him other than he's crotchety.
We never learned that much about Deckard anyway, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like almost all of Lorath's character development is that he has a good voice actor, and like that's it. We don't need to actually write the character. He sounds really good when he talks, and like that's.
I mean, that was Deckard's lore. That was Deckard's character. That's kind of like the Haradrim. They're just supposed to be like mystical figure, like just like I don't know. I think they do okay to continue the Haradrim vibe forward with Lorath.
Yeah.
Also, his voice actor is really good.
That's true. A lot of the voice actors are really good. I would say all, but all is a very committal statement. So after we wipe, so again, I'm backing up slightly. We wipe out the world-ending or the continent-destroying threat of Andariel. That was at the end of Act 4. Mm-hmm. Act 5, again, just retreading slightly. We fight Elias a bunch, and not much else. And then Act 5, I think I'm keeping things in the correct order. Act 5 is the swamp area. Yeah, where we do the Horcrux. Okay. And now that we've done the Horcrux, we also need to get... When do we get the Soul Stone? To trap Mephisto. When does that happen?
I mean...
Oh, that's what Donan was doing.
Yeah, that's what Donan was doing.
That's what Donan was doing when we were doing the Horcrux with Lorath.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a pretty packed act. In Act 5.
We also meet the Whispers of the Dead. Like, yeah, we meet the Whispers of the Dead. That's where Donan learns how to, like, overcome his
we get the Tree of Whispers as well.
Tree of Whispers is supposed to be is like a huge part of that act.
You know what?
The Tree of Whispers, the tree Act 5 is Act 5 is most of the game.
It's almost like they packed too much into that act. But I mean, I don't think it's egregiously paced at that point. And then we get into Act 6, which is just terrible, awful, just nonsensical pacing. Where the characters make really dumb, out-of-character decisions in order to progress the plot. We meet up with the Knights, Holy Inarius lads, and for some reason, even though they don't trust them, they're like, oh yeah, we have the Lorath and Donan. This cutscene bugged out for me, so I don't actually remember who was the one that initiated the conversation to say that, oh yeah, we have a soul stone. But he just goes up and says, oh yeah, we have a soul stone. And as that
well, it's kind of like showing off.
Yeah,
he kind of like shows it off, like, we don't need your blessing anymore, we have a soul stone. Like,
how is that fit for the character?
I think that fits Lorath, though. He's pretty smug when he does talk, and he really doesn't like Inarius because Inarius is a dick.
But like,
and he's dealt with Inarius before,
doesn't trust. Yeah, but he should know that he would then take the soul stone from him.
Yeah, it's not really clear. They don't really explain what he thought was going to happen. I think so. What it comes off as is that Lorath thinks he's strong enough to resist Inarius, at least somewhat, but then they just say rider power, no, Inarius is an angel, even though you can stand before him and like you don't really care about him, and obviously you've interacted with him before, get fucked. The Soul Stone's now his.
Yeah, well, we need you and your band of misfits to be tied with Bravo for a bit, so you can go through and wipe out another.
Even though that would have happened anyway without the Soul Stone getting yoinked, and then they just give us the Soul Stone back anyway.
Correct.
I don't know. It's almost like that's the point where it feels like they had another writer write a part, and they just didn't like review it with anybody.
Yeah. And then we get to the cutscene then we go through the streets fighting lesser evils, which again are continent level threats, but don't worry, we killed one. And I think we killed 2 there.
No, it's just Uriel.
Right? Or do we kill Elias first?
We fight Elias.
No, we kill Elias after the
Act 5 is
Duriel. We kill Elias after Duriel.
No, we kill Elias in Act 5.
What?
Yeah, before we... Yes.
No, I'm looking at the video. What?
Elias dies at the end of Act 5, yeah.
Does he? Man, that doesn't seem like the right spot for that death. Oh, you're right. He does die at the end of Act 5.
Yeah. Because with Elias gone, we have the Soul Stone now, and now we can confront Anarius directly. Like, that was the whole point. And we need to go to the Burning Hells. Because that's when we discover Lilith's true... Or, well, we start to get a little bit more of a grasp on what they... That's where they hint that we might start to actually get told what the fuck Lilith is doing. And then we don't get any of that.
That won't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
With the cut to the team after the lawsuit, I assume they rewrote Act 4 for Act 6 for faster development? I guess, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Act 6 is just a train wreck.
Like, Act 5, like, they could have... Honestly,
dude, like, it's just so... Act 5 is so packed.
But at least Act 5, like, resolves. Like, they could have literally had the story for the release of Diablo 4 stop at the end of Act 5.
You've killed Elias. Lilith and leave... is still out there.
Yeah. And they could have left us on that cliffhanger, and that would have been better, because they could have then actually developed Act 6.
Yeah, like the whole first like, they've already introduced, like, the pedal mechanics, or, like, ways to have us experience the past and stuff. Like, they could have had an entire campaign where we experience Inarius and Lilith falling out, where we experience Inarius trying to, like, struggle to get back into heaven and dealing with that.
I don't think that was just struggle.
And, like, actually understand what Lilith was doing, like, partied up.
Inarius is super simple as a character, though, because, like, literally, Imperius is such a dick. The way heaven works is if he says no, you don't get to come back.
Yeah.
So, like, that's Inarius' whole lore, though, is that he pissed them off and they said no.
Yeah, and now he's trying to do anything that he thinks will...
The one thing. He only thought of one idea. It was ceaseless murder.
Kill Rathma.
Yeah.
And then... like,
well, and Lilith.
To me, it's unclear if he would have stopped at Lilith, though. Like...
Oh, he wanted to purge all of Sanctuary. That's what it said. That's what it said in the lore.
Why are we fighting with him? Like, why are we fighting all?
Well, because the only way we know that lore is because that's in the Book of Lore at the YouTube video series. That's not actually portrayed in the game anywhere.
I'm sure our character has that knowledge anyways, though, because they seem to have a lot of knowledge that only the writers actually know. I don't know. I think that the story actually gets worse upon thinking about it more. And, like, I think the story is actually worse than D3.
Act 3 in Diablo 3 is really bad.
Yeah, but,
like really, really bad.
Yeah.
Like, worse than, really bad.
But is it worse than
Act 1 in Diablo 3 also
building to nothing?
Okay. If I have to read it this way. Act 4 in D3 is amazingly put together. It's not too compact and everything resolves and you understand what's happening. It's simple, but you know what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Act 5 is the same thing. It gets a little bit more complicated, but it's very clear what the objective of the story is, and you accomplish that. Act 1, and I'm going backwards here. Act 3, you know exactly what's going on from the second you step into the act, and so it makes it terrible, because they try to pretend the whole way through the act, you have no idea what's happening. Act 2 is... you kind of know what's happening, but you don't, so you follow it anyway, but it's still simple, right? There's nothing, like, it just works. Like, it's a simple story plot, but you play through it, and you know that you get what story you just played. And, I mean, Act 1 sets up Diablo 3 really well, other than the fact they killed Deckard. I guess in terms of Act 1 and D4, Rathma's death was supposed to be the equivalent to Deckard's death. Kinda.
Yeah, the inciting incident in D3 makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, your character hears about...
Yeah. The people who wrote... the writers who wrote D3's story were better at writing stories. Somehow. Even though it's not that great of a story. They knew how to make a story you could follow. I don't know how to, like, word that correctly, but... like, they could make a story that was able to be followed and wasn't needlessly convoluted. It was almost too simple, but I preferred that simple. Because I think D2's story was also fairly straightforward. So, like...
in D4, it seems like they got... like, they were like, oh, good stories have mysteries that you set up, and then you unravel them. And, like...
they did the Shadowlands. They tried to do Shadowlands.
They set up the mystery, and then... it's just, like, not paid off well at all. Like, why is Lilith doing this? Who killed Rathma? What is the history of Elias? Like, he's like, oh, he's just a Haradrim. Oh, you know, Elias, he's that guy. And, like, you can set up a character and have them, like, become a villain and, like, within the same... short time frame, but not this way. They did not do a good enough job. Like, what is Elias? Like, Elias, what was his motivation? Like,
he heard Rathma's he heard Rathma's. No, he heard Rathma. The Haradrim knew of Rathma's prophecy because, again, Rathma's the first Nephilim. Sure. So they also don't exactly explain what Rathma's prophecy was, ever.
Yeah.
But it's basically that the conflict would never end. But
Elias wasn't a Toes convert. Elias
was already he was a Rathma follower.
Sure. I think that's me too, because I also put on a bunch of white face paint. I think that's the only requirement.
Other than, you know, taking parts of your soul and attributing them to random objects.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Also, I'm going back to this Act 1. Rathma should not be able to die.
He is immortal.
He also
should be stronger than an Arius.
He wasn't a fighter.
I guess.
They portray him as not being a fighter. He was like a Scot. Like, he didn't have combat prowess, but he was way too smart for his own good, right? But I guess that would mean he should be powerful. But
we learn later with Elias that you can have these like Horcruxes things.
Yes, yeah, and
why didn't Rathma have one?
It's, dude, on the D3 armor pieces, it said that Rathma can do that. Like that's flavor text in the previous game. Like, Rathma was immortal because he fragmented himself all over.
Well, I'm sure Inarius went and handled all those fragments off screen.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, they say that Elias got into Rathma's temple, right? That's where Rathma was most of the time. How did he get into that temple?
Dead.
He should. Elias did that trick a long time ago, is what it stated.
Rathma is dead for longer than that.
Also, it's kind of incentivized that Lilith I guess Rathma died. I guess Rathma.
I don't think the writers actually know the timeline.
I think the timeline is supposed to be, though. Rathma dies, Lilith finds out, Lilith then recruits or joins forces with Elias and tells him about the temple.
Okay.
He goes and gets the knowledge that apparently Lilith doesn't know from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Then instead of getting his head taken, he
isn't your head only supposed to be taken when you die? Like, it's not like an immediate, you get the knowledge, you lose your head.
Yeah.
So I don't know why
they don't explain how he died.
But he didn't die.
Or
he's very much alive.
He was supposed. I think the tree was saying like he was supposed to give them another head. Maybe he was with somebody who died. I don't know. They don't really explain that why.
Because like Lorith gets information from the tree.
Yeah.
And he isn't dead and doesn't have to give his head.
Yeah, but the way they do Lorith is almost like they made a different type of deal. Like you can make different deals with the tree.
Of course.
Yeah.
Why don't our characters go make a deal with the tree then? For like knowledge on.
It's funny is that we do that same thing. We ask the tree, and we don't really directly ask a question. We kind of just ask about surrounding coincidences, and then we get knowledge without having to pay our. I don't know. The tree's kind of dumb for having a bunch of heads. Kind of dumb. Anyway, it's basically the timeline is like Rathma dies, Lilith partners with Elias, and then shows Elias how to get into the temple so that he can learn to be immortal like Rathma. But then how the fuck did Rathma die?
Yeah, if I was Elias, I wouldn't really trust someone who came and told me that this dead guy has a path to immortality.
Or maybe he doesn't know that Rathma's dead? I guess because no characters know Rathma's dead, right? Or it's also instead of like from D3's lore, it's said that everybody thinks Rathma's dead, been long gone anyway. Like he checked out himself. I don't know. Also, Rathma just had the key to hell on him, too. Like literally the key to Mephisto's dimension. The gate, like Rathma held. I guess that's supposed to be something that Lilith and Inarius gave him as like like to be the Watcher. Or something.
Then Inarius kills him and doesn't take the key, so that Lilith could just come in and pick it up. He didn't fully loot the corpse.
Maybe that. See, that's where I remember we talked about this during the beta. That's where that part breaks down for me. That's where I almost feel like Inarius didn't kill Rathma, and that Rathma actually committed suicide.
In the cutscene, Lilith says, "You killed our son," and Inarius is like, "Words won't help you." He doesn't deny it.
Yeah, but maybe
he doesn't say, "Yeah, I killed our son." Like he doesn't confirm it.
Yeah.
To be clear, so they could still write it.
That's also his character, though, is to not confirm anything.
Yeah, but like, he could have easily just denied it, and in writing, when that is like.
Yeah, but they're supposed to be having a dramatic battle. I don't know. But the way Rathma's dead, right, is like basically says that there's like almost the way that Rathma dies without the key to hell being taken, when that's exactly what Inarius wanted, right?
Is that he stole the spear, like he dies to the spear of Inarius.
But it's not clear if Inarius only has one spear, right? I don't know.
Keep your spears locked, parents.
Also, Rathma is his son, right? He could have given him a weapon.
The non-combat Rathma, the guy who doesn't do combat and is a scholar.
I mean, he's still supposed to be the protector of the key to hell, right? So
Inarius gives him a spear.
I mean, that was Inarius' weapon of choice. Lilith gave him knowledge, so like I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Lilith's weapon of choice is her toes.
But anyway, it's not really clear. That's where it doesn't make sense to me. I kind of overlooked the fact that there's really no reason that Rathma should be dead. Also, like, if Inarius did kill Rathma, he would have taken the key.
Yeah.
So
unless his inventory was full.
Okay, actually though, he would have taken the key.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
So that means that we have to draw the conclusion as players that Inarius didn't actually kill him.
No, that means we have to draw the conclusion as players that the writers had one idea for who killed him when they first wrote the mystery, and then changed their mind later and didn't go back to fill in all the plot holes.
Well, then we have to adapt with that, though, and say that that means that Inarius can't have killed him.
I guess. But then, like... So, what you're saying...
Also, Rathma was...
It is still a mystery as to who killed Rathma.
I think... So, wait, hold on. This is how I think it is. I think it's to the player, it's supposed to be a mystery, right? But to Lilith, when she finds him because of the weapon of choice...
Inarius' spear in his back,
she thinks that...
Like, oh, yeah. And then that's what causes all of this. And again...
Yes.
Inarius could have just said, "I didn't kill our son."
Yeah.
Which you might say, "Oh,
but
that
if Inarius didn't kill him, who could have been able to kill Rathma to set up this whole? Could it have been Mephisto?
I bet it was our character. We're very powerful.
But honestly, like if you think about it, could have Mephisto have somehow managed to kill Rathma, or maybe even Diablo?
Another evil.
Yeah, like, could Diablo have managed? Honestly, I wouldn't.
Not exactly known for his cunningness.
He also is not as strong as Diablo, so that would be the only way that they could write it to make sense. Is that like Diablo or Mephisto or Baal actually came and killed Rathma
with Inarius'
with a weapon that looks like it. Or is similar to it. Were any of them slain? Like, one of them might have been slain by Inarius in the past. Slain, quote-unquote. Because, like, there's a way they could write it, right? To make it so that it wasn't actually Inarius that killed it.
I guess.
Because in the plot, Inarius would have taken the key. He 100% would have taken the key.
Unless Inarius didn't know he had the key, because like the key, was that given to him jointly, or was that given to him only? It is said
in the videos that they gave it to him.
Yeah.
I guess that could be singular.
Just been Lilith. It could have, because like Lilith would have been the one who had the key.
Yeah, but that's why that was like the whole thing they set up for. That would be the only reason for Rathma to have died to Inarius, because Inarius needed the key before Lilith got it.
But he didn't take the key.
Yes. See, now you're faulting. That means Inarius didn't kill him.
Therefore, he couldn't have been the one in the dining room.
It's like it actually becomes a little bit better of a story if Inarius didn't kill him. It becomes a little bit more of a mystery.
But it's a mystery that doesn't get paid off
yet, right? Maybe that's what they got. They've got it like that's
copium.
Yeah. I think it'd be very interesting if it was Diablo or Baal that killed him. Which one would be more likely to have killed Rathma for their own benefit?
Baal's lie.
Right? No, that's Belial.
Belial? Okay. Well, what's Baal?
I don't know.
Baal is he is the Lord of Destruction. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Destruction? Is the expansion name. Okay. Oh, okay. They made a different... Yeah, Lorith made a different deal with the tree. His deal was that when he dies, his head goes to the tree and he doesn't get an afterlife.
Just like an upgrade.
I guess.
So where did we leave off in the story?
I'm all I don't even care anymore.
We're bursting into hell. And like... The cutscene that bugged happens, and Inarius dies. I still think there's a lot of fuckery around that, where there's no way they could have known that he died in the time span where they figured out he died. Mm-hmm. But that's whatever. At this point, fine.
Oh, wait. There is... Hold on. To point that out, I know you don't like me arguing against that, but there is... I remember this from Diablo Immortal. You don't want to remember, but I do. In Diablo Immortal, we storm hell, right? With two angels.
Sure.
When one of the angels falls in hell, all of the commanders and the other angels know. Because they're like, our presence here weakens, and they all retreat.
The angels.
But the command... I'm fine with the angels. But we're not with an angel at the time. We're with a commander of the army of soldiers we walked in with. They're Haradrim, so they're a little bit more powerful, but like... They're still they were directly like blessed by the angels, and they know when one of their commanders fell, and we only see it in a cutscene.
I think it's stronger for the story if Inarius had not given them their blessing, and they didn't know he fell there. But they do know he fell there.
Because he gave them their blessing.
Because he gave them their blessing. I think that's weaker for the story, because that shows that Inarius is like trying to protect
But
them.
I get, but it's also kind of, but if we follow...
He's only trying to use them as pawns in order to get to Lilith, but like he already had Lilith in his sight.
But if he only, but it's also kind of, like you can kind of draw from there, from the earlier games, that humans can't enter hell without the protection of the angels. Because...
It does seem kind of spicy.
Yeah, it's kind of hot down there. Also, Prava was walking around barefoot on fucking molten magma. So, like...
Yeah, I think that's just because she's crazy, though.
I mean, I think that just confirms that she had the hottest feet.
I don't know, Lilith has... high competence. So, at the very... So, luckily for Team Light, we're bringing up the rear, going through hell, killing demons, and we find Prava, and she's like, "Oh, I fucked up, Madge. I got the Soul Stone though. Isn't that lucky for you guys?" And then they're like, "Ha, nana nana boo boo. Now we have the Soul Stone, and we're still gonna be alive." And Prava's like, "Well, I'm still gonna be alive too, but now I'm mad." And then Laura's like, "Oh, you can't be mad. Being mad is a sin. Checkmate, atheist." And then we proceed onward with our now recaptured Soul Stone in tow. And then for really no reason, Donin dies because they just got tired of writing his character. No, we're recapping the story. So
I've been listening to the recap. I thought I already heard him die.
Well, we discussed him dying earlier.
Oh, yeah.
But we're now getting to that point in the recap where Donin just randomly dies. Because again, I guess they just didn't want him in the story anymore.
To a set piece, he could have just tripped over a rock. It would have been the same.
Yeah. Then Lorath decides, "I'm tired." And he sits down.
And he just gives up.
And then we and Narelle have to go forward, and then we are like, "Hey, Narelle, turns out Mephisto, we're actually kind of tight though." Luckily that gives us the power to open this portal. And then we yippee through the portal. And then we're like, "Oh, well, we can't make this choice because that would mean that there was a meaningful choice for the player to make. And we don't make meaningful choices. We're just strong. Our mom told us." And so we hand off the Soul Stone to our ally. And are like, "You make the choice, NPC."
Well, the real reason we say we can't make the choice is because we don't trust our not being deceived by Mephisto. Because we took his blessing for some reason.
Yeah. And like, fair. I guess. Whatever.
We did what we thought we had to do to survive, but it turns out we don't know if we're corrupted or not. So we actually give it to the one person who we think isn't corrupted. Which
It turns out she might actually have already been corrupted, because she then plunges the Soul Stone into Mephisto, which I think was what he wanted all along, because Soul Stones never work, and he could have actually been killed by Lilith.
I think from what we see afterward, I think he still probably would prefer to have just been,
not
able, because he was in his domain. That's where he's strongest.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have preferred to not be in the Soul Stone, but like being in the Soul Stone.
I think looking back at the whole part about Act 1 and Rathma, it's way better for it makes
Mephisto to have actually been the one pulling the strings.
No, it makes it a lot more sense for like one of the other evils to have been pulling the strings this whole time to like get Mephisto, because Bale and Diablo do not want Mephisto being strong. So to like set it up so that he ends up getting captured and then brought over to them, because they should be on the other continent or the other landmass. That's really where they should be.
Okay.
So they should be over there. So they set it up to take. So now she's bringing Mephisto to his brothers,
which they couldn't have predicted.
I guess.
How would they have known that Narelle was going to go to the other continent?
because
It
since
seems like Mephisto is leading her there,
yeah.
but like, why wouldn't it still
Well,
lead her
during
there
while
if that's
we were
where-
doing stuff through the whole like all of Act 1 and all the other acts, Cinderella was in the Horadrim library
Yeah.
learning. And they had a bunch of Soulstones artifacts in there. It's totally possible that because
She got corrupted.
corrupted by one of the evils while she was there, because she probably went back into that temple, poked around. It's totally
Cried over
possible
her
that
mom's
she
corpse.
it's totally possible that she discovered the influence of Baal or Diablo and got corrupted, and then they are telling her what to do from now on.
Sure.
Because why else would
And-
she just randomly go across the sea?
Because we need a catalyst for the next
But that's how they could set it up, right? Like,
expansion.
it makes it not a completely terrible story if she's already being led by one of the other greater evils.
That's where you're wrong. But
I mean, it's at least better. It's the only thing that makes the whole catalyst of the story, which is Rathma dying, makes sense. Like, make it make sense. I have.
I think you put more thought into it than
The writers, yeah, but hopefully hopefully they realize their own plot hole.
Hopefully they watch this YouTube video and learn. But I don't know, like the story, like it feels like they crammed too much in, but at the same time,
Of course this guy's a
it
demon.
feels substantial.
Of course.
Turns out someone you were helping was evil all along. Oh, who could have known?
And we don't kill him? I'm just going into his hideout?
He's just a chunky, friendly guy. You don't gotta kill every demon there, you know. Some are just friendly guys. But yeah, in conclusion, I think that they've clearly set up the story to have places to go in the future. But I don't know that they stuck the landing on this.
The base
installment.
game story was not good.
Yeah.
Kind of like the game itself. The base ain't that great, but there is hope. It's across the sea.
Oceans away. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to add, Randall?
I didn't pay attention.
Yeah, that's kind of. I knew that was true. Do you have anything you want to add, Ziach?
The story ends with the main character going to the area where D3 takes place, and I think that's a good sign.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I would prefer to go back to the area of New Tristram and or of Tristram and Westmarch. I think that they didn't develop this side of the world well enough.